Hi, welcome to the video tutorial for the fourth Thinking Math Lessons furniture problem. It's one of my particular favourite lessons because it is so practical and the maths is hidden and emerges as the students engage with the challenge and the problems that you set them. So it's a very rewarding lesson. It's very challenging in that you can touch upon more advanced concepts that you wouldn't encounter till you get to Key Stage 4, such as standard deviation. The lesson begins with a hook, and the hook, as you'll see from the results, is a cartoon of a child in a furniture store such as IKEA who simply can't choose the right piece of furniture. And I use the idea of the children choosing a desk. They have to decide on how best to fit a desk into their room to do the homework on. So I asked the students if they can come up with 2 or 3 things that would be important about a desk for them, and you get a whole range of ideas such as colour, material, the features of the desk, and someone will suggest size. And at that point you can tease out what we mean by size, and the 3 dimensions will emerge: length, width and height, although I don't mention 3 dimensions. So that's the introduction to the lesson. The first challenge comes when you ask them to draw a desk to best show length, width and height, but they can't write, they can't annotate it, they just have to show it by drawing. And this is really interesting because what you're encouraging the children to do is to kind of relate the 3 dimensions in a 2-dimensional drawing, and some of them will really struggle. And in most times when I've done this, no more than a third of the class will give you a 3-dimensional representation of a desk on paper. So it becomes even more interesting when you ask the students to walk around the class and look at everyone's desk and have a vote on which desk they think best shows length, width and height, and why. And it's really lovely when you get different students voting on different desks, and in many cases they're both showing the 3 dimensions, but drawing this out from the students and getting them to articulate why, you can see the sides and things like that, is really rich and rewarding experience. Then annotating the desks so they all agree brings this kind of mini challenge to an end. What they then need to do is start to relate the 3 dimensions to themselves personally, and many of them won't have done that. And this is an interesting point because many children interact in a virtual world on computer technology, but actually relating dimensions to width or length or width to themselves is something that they mightn't have done before. So there's a lovely episode where I get a smaller child than me to stand at the front, and we agree as a class what is length, width and height. So this could be length, or this could be length. We just agree it as a class, and they all practice, and it really does get them relating what they've drawn to the desk and how the measurement, how the description of the dimension ties into that. So then the students, using tape measures, you can get paper tape measures from IKEA, they have to measure their own length, width and height and annotate their little desk with these three values. It's lovely at this point to see the children working together, collaborating, measuring, writing the measurements down, checking the measurements. So once they've got these measurements, I make sure that very carefully they work in groups of different sizes, i.e. 3s, 4s, 5s, possibly 6s. And the reason for that is that you want them to collaborate and share the results and work together and put the results in order, but you're then going to ask the students to find a middle value without telling them what you mean by middle. Because many children will have a sense of an M word in maths: mean, median, mode, middle, and they haven't quite worked it out for themselves yet. So challenging them to work out the middle is quite important, because the even groups will work out the mean or the average, the odd groups will often work out the middle, and having a debate about what is the middle is really quite valuable, and how they worked it out and actually what name they give it. Because some of them will struggle to tell you that the middle of 3 numbers is what we mean by the median, and finding the average, where you add up and divide of 4 numbers, is the mean. So that is it's a really good way of assessing how much your children have grasped of these important terms. So once we've agreed and debated what the median value is, as a class you can then calculate the median value of every group's results. So once you've got that, that in the typical cases might be 120, 60 and 70, you can then compare those results to a real desk. And this is another interesting diversion into the real world, because a desk I've never had, in doing this lesson dozens and dozens of times, I've never had a real desk that matches the class's measurements. So the question is, why are they different? Have we made a mistake, or what has the company done to come up with their measurements? And it might be that it's the constraints of the classroom. It might be that the desks need to fit smaller people. But it's lovely to come up to get the students to suggest an answer and debate about it. And in some cases, the lesson will end. There is another episode where you then think, how can we collect data to fit other parameters, which is if there's a new school, how do we decide on the height of the doors? Or if at a new hotel, how can we then work out the length of beds? And this challenges the children to think about getting another measurement. And with that, you start to approach the standard deviation for a mean, because you can't have the door to fit the tallest person. You need to have some cut-off point. And I mean, in about half the times I've taught the lesson, I do manage to touch upon that. But in the others, we end up having a discussion about middle values and how middle measurements actually don't really suit anyone, because my wife is very small, so she has a problem buying shoes. She also has a problem in the car with the seat belt or the airbag, because she is too small, because a lot of measurements are designed for some middle. And I think it's important to have this debate and get the students to think about how we use measurements and the language we use in the world around us.